Hi and welcome to the streaming room here at 10 Chambers. This is where we do our somewhat weekly streams, but I also wanted to test a new concept, talking with our level designers about their amazing work. And what better way to do that than to actually play the expedition they so viciously designed. So I hope this gives you some insights in their thought process and creative processes, and how we do our rundowns here at 10 Chambers. Smaklig spis.
Okay, so welcome, Sean. You're a level designer here at 10 Chambers.
Yes, I am.
So tell me a little bit about your background.
I come straight out of school to this company, actually. I went to Future Games, which is kind of a popular choice for game developers in Sweden because it gives you like an internship in the end, which often leads to a job. But I quit that school in the middle of the education to join 10 Chambers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I got presented an opportunity and I took it.
So you were so good you didn't need to finish school.
I don't know. I knew someone, and I guess I was the right person for the job at the time.
Yeah.
I worked a lot with first-person shooters in particular, with realism and with horror. So I guess it was a kind of a good match.
Yeah. Of course, we're gonna play GTFO today. Mm-hmm. But do you have any like favorite map from any game?
I really do like the maps of Hunt Showdown, especially the latest one, the Sal, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. It's really good. It has a lot of diversity. The map is kind of big. It's very different making a map for single player versus multiplayer, and I think they pulled that off really well.
Yeah. Because that's kind of a mix between multiplayer and single player.
It is. It has PvE elements and it has PvP elements. I guess it's more focused on the PvP since the players are kind of the danger in Hunt Showdown.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite maps of all time, I would say, just because how diverse it is, and how well it plays in that particular playstyle. It's hard to make maps for slow-paced hardcore games, I feel, because they require a lot more attention in some ways.
Could you elaborate on that?
For example, if you make a Quake arena type shooter when it's faster paced, I feel like when you're making levels for those kind of games, it's you have to think about the moment to moment gameplay. But when you make maps for a slower kind of gameplay, like in Escape from Tarkov, Hunt Showdown, you also have to think about how the player navigates throughout the map, as well as how that kind of travel mentality transitions into a gunfight at any moment. Like you're gonna have to be interesting in the middle of a forest, in the outskirts of a town, in the middle of a town, underneath the town, if there's like underground railways. I don't know. I think it's harder to make that kind of mix together, more seamless in a sense.
So you made how many maps for this rundown?
For rundown 6, I made 3 maps. I made A1, C1, and C2. I'm happy that I didn't have to make the harder levels because I think the other people had cooler ideas for more intricate levels. I really like to be on the C, B tier-ish,
okay.
Where players are kind of getting into the game but are not, total newbies.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, because we're gonna play A1 in a moment. That's like the introduction level to the whole game, and we really try to lower the threshold for new players.
Arguably the easiest map of the game ever created, which is ironic.
And as you said, we're bringing 2 bots. It's such an easy level for if you have played the game before, so you probably not need to think about like what equipment you bring or what tools or weapons.
Yeah, I think you'll do fine with just a little bit of aim in this one.
Completed the map by myself with 3 bots using GeForce Now.
How long did it take? Do you know?
Like 18 minutes?
That's good.
Yeah.
That is good. I gotta be honest, I haven't played this map a whole lot of times. I played it during testing stages, but I think I only played it once or twice in the actual build.
Yeah, so here we are down from the elevator into the first room. The first room in every expedition is so important just to set the vibe for the map.
Mm-hmm. The kind of elevator landing leading into the map. There's a couple of different ones that we try to make them look as diverse as possible. But yeah, for dig site, I really like these kind of entry points.
Yeah, I like seeing this big hole and just all the like particles in there. It just feels okay. We're deep down. This is gonna be trouble. So what were your first like design thoughts for this map?
So for A1, the kind of goal with this map was to create something that would replace the tutorial, where we didn't include one in 6.0. It was kind of the full release. We wanted something to kind of teach new players how to play the game, without making a fully fledged tutorial to keep it in the kind of the GTFO mindset of just keeping it kind of downscaled. So this expedition is just a normal expedition, really, but with the elements broken down into absolute smallest components. I'm just trying to go through the most important aspects of the game. Here in the beginning, a critical aspect of GTFO is teaching the players about the terminals and the importance of the terminals. We've seen a lot of players just disregarding these in the beginning and are like, are they really important? Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Some expeditions are like basically incompletable if you can't use a terminal correctly.
Exactly.
So yeah, I can ping the key for us here real quick so we can get through. Let's see.
Because I mean, you could brute force this map and just go both ways on the sides.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But then you play a lot of unnecessary parts. Using the terminal, you get a sense of where the key is, and you only need to go through one of the sections of the map.
Yeah, if you don't want to use the terminals, like after all, you're still supposed to be able to progress through through the map. There we go. Let's see. We have to go to zone.
And I went to the wrong door, of course.
77. Let's go. It's always confusing. Like these keys, their IDs and everything they're randomly generated. So
Yeah.
you always have to adapt again every time you play a level.
I mean, is that a thing? Because I mean, the placements of resources and keys and stuff like that are randomly generated.
Mm-hmm.
How do you incorporate that in a level design?
Well, they're not totally random generated. I mean, obviously, basically we place them in zones, and they are, and then they are, placed in each session in a different place in that zone. But in this case, it's actually randomized between 76 and 77, just to. Yeah, if you play this map several times, sometimes you have to go to the right, sometimes you have to go to the left.
Yeah.
Just to switch things up a little bit.
When I went to the press tour, A1 was one of the maps we brought, and I played it a couple of times. And like, now I know this map. But the thing is, the RNG made it so I went into the same zone every time. So when I played live the first time with journalists, it was the second zone. It was, okay, this is totally new. I don't know anything about this.
Yeah, I put a tank in there, a mother. It's
That was a bit terrible.
Oh, God. So do you want to go shooty or sneaky on these boys?
Yeah, we can try to go sneaky.
Okay, let's go.
I brought a knife.
Brought a knife to a gunfight or to a sleeper fight?
Exactly. I mostly use spear. Okay, let's go.
Oh, I guess that was our cue too. Start.
Just start stabbing. Yeah. I mean, that's the beauty of this game. You you set out to try to sneak, and then just everything goes to hell, and you try to remedy the situation, and then you go back to sneaking.
It's all just a matter of how patient you are. And most of the times, like on these lower tiers, you're not patient at all. You're like, I'll get by. Yeah, patience is the greatest killer in GTFO, I've heard.
That's a good saying. So, I mean, you talked about the vision for the map, having it as an interaction for new players. Mm-hmm. How close to that do you think the final product was?
It is a very easy expedition. I mean, you're not supposed to have a super high challenge, and I think most of the fundamental elements are explained. But I mean, there could have been deeper explanations for some things. Or I mean, I am a strong advocate for having as little text as possible, and just trying to make the player learn themselves by designing an objective in a certain way, or with a few word prompts. I think this was enough. I wouldn't have wanted it to be more intricate or more in detail. But of course, if we sometime want to put more resources into making like a proper tutorial, that would be fun as well. But this will have to do for 6.0. It's already easier than I think than any other map we've already made. So
yeah, it surely is. It's a great introduction to like the basic elements, as you said, the terminal, sneaking. Remedy situations, and just like the basic alarms.
One thing to remember also when you've, because I made five expeditions at the point that I made this map.
Okay.
I don't know. It's hard to remember sometimes how confusing GTFO can be to new players.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things to consider, just outside shooting and staying alive and keeping track of heartbeats and everything like that. Yeah, GTFO is. It's hard to explain without words, I guess, and that's what I learned when trying to create this level.
So I mean, if this was your sixth or seventh expedition you made, what did you learn?
Oh no, sorry. This was my fourth expedition. Actually.
Okay. So what did you learn in that process?
I learned that not every map has to be super complicated, because when you get to a certain point, just because we have this kind of rundown system, where we throw away months of work from the level design part each time we start a new rundown and just flush them out, come up with 10, 9, 8 new concepts, and we go with a new rundown. At one point, you get into a mindset where you always want to top the last thing you did,
Of course, yeah.
Oh, this map was like this. How can I make a map even more interesting, even better, or even with more interesting and unique mechanics? And at some point, you kind of hit a wall, or you kind of pass a threshold where it gets so complicated that new players don't understand it, or that no player think it's fun. Because it's like, start this thing, do this, write this thing over here, wait for this thing. So yeah, what I kind of learned is sometimes maybe less is more, when it comes to designing levels. But yeah, this was a special case because this was supposed to be easy. But yeah, that's what I kind of have to learn, to just kind of let go, let the game be the game in itself without adding a lot of extra to it.
Yeah. So I guess that was a pretty good exercise as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll just go right ahead and start this diminish alarm. I think.
I was putting my sentry in the wrong direction.
Yeah, where did it? Oh yeah, they were gonna come from the left.
Yeah.
We could have ordered the bots to do something, but I mean, they're just here for the ride. They're not even part of the of the recording.
Exactly. Poor bot bishop.
Yeah, you gotta have like an interview with the bot someday. Have them reply with whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I actually interviewed a chair and a table at DreamHack once, so I know how to interview dead objects.
Wait, what? Is this for real?
Yeah, it was like a joke interview for how they felt to be seated on for 4 days by gaming people.
Oh my god, I was not paying attention at all.
No.
I was just like, what? You interviewed a fucking inanimate object?
Yeah, I mean, you asked me, are we like playing the game at the same time we're doing this talk? And I said, yeah, let's like make it the gaming version of Hot Ones.
Yeah, I guess this is multitasking on another level.
Do you have a certain design process when you tackle a new expedition? Are you like a physical person that start building things in clay or Lego, or drawing things on paper, or do you use like Excel, or could you describe that process?
Oh no, I'm. Funny enough, I have a very hard time visualizing stuff before I can see it, which doesn't make any sense because that means I'll kind of have to just traverse in the dark. But I come from a designer background, really. It's like paper and pen design.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So yeah, I always, when I make levels for any game or for GTFO, I always start with like a mechanical concept or theoretical concept. And then something starts visualizing from there. So in GTFO, oftentimes when we make these maps, because they are partially generated, and then they're curated. Oftentimes when we make levels, we always we try to send like a custom environment with them to tell the story.
Yeah.
For the A1 now in particular, it's the MVP room for everyone who has played that. That kind of centerpiece, that kind of special environment piece that we send along with the levels, is oftentimes very related to the mission's main objective.
Yeah.
In this case, getting the MVP. My process is often like, oh yeah, I have a concept for this one. It's like make a tutorial that has like this narrative element to it. Players are supposed to be introduced to traveling to new dimensions, because that was a huge part of the R6 release.
Yeah.
And then I just try to envision something that kind of convey that in a good way. In this case, kind of like a cave room with the MVP in the middle. It looked like kind of like they have made some, I don't know, experiments or dedicated a space for it at least.
So were you part of that process to concept that room, or?
I worked with one of our concept artists a little bit, like we discussed things. He made some interesting compositions for it, and then I just interpreted it in this way.
Okay.
Always when you work with concept art, it's you never really hit 100, because that would be weird if the concept artist could visualize the 3D environment with the gameplay and everything just from scratch. Yeah, it's not always that we do that. It's not a thing that we usually do. But for this particular room, a concept artist was a little bit involved in envisioning the room.
Yeah.
Then I realized it with his concept. It's an interesting procedure of making these levels, because sometimes you start in one end and sometimes you start in the other. Sometimes you just have a cool idea for a room and you make that room, and then you're like, oh, wouldn't it be interesting if the players had to go through this way and do this and then come back with this to this room? I don't think it's a straightforward process for anyone on the level design team, really.
Yeah.
I think we all have our different approaches, and it can even differentiate from map to map.
Yeah. And you touched upon it. It's not just level design. I mean, it's concept art. It's like gameplay designers. A lot of people are involved in making the experience. So, I mean, would you call yourself a level designer or a experience designer?
What I would call myself, like my title right now, it's level designer.
Yeah.
But I guess the experience designer is a little bit closer, especially here on as a level designer on GTFO, because it's not only levels.
Yeah.
We're not only blocking out or thinking about how players will move through the levels. Not only that, but we also. We're also the ones who choose objectives for the levels. We choose how the objectives will be progressed. Some gameplay elements as well, like how we incorporate them into GTFO. I mean, I know a level designer was part of the boss creation process, for example. So I mean, the lines are a little bit blurred. I would say.
We're still a small company, so I could imagine that in other companies, a level designer is more like the blocking type, and just creating the structure, and then you have like dressers and textures and all that kind of magic.
Exactly. And here the art team and the level design team are a little bit more separated in that sense, that the art team make the props and the level designers, they make the block out and they do the set dressing. So there's no one else than the level designers who actually touch the levels that gets into the game. So yeah, it's a little bit interesting. But because we have this procedural generated system, we have time to do that. We have time to set dress our own pieces, because old work gets reused through new expeditions. Which
How dare you?
How dare we not make 10 new original levels?
That's a common misconception as well, that the levels are 100% generated.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no. Not 100, but yeah, it's a huge help. It's a huge time saver when making these, instead of making a new, you just need a corridor. You can just pop a tile in, instead of reinventing the wheel every time for something that isn't even that important to that particular map. So I get, in a sense, we prioritize quantity, at least when it comes to that, by having this procedural generated system.
Yeah.
That being said, I think these custom pieces are very important. Not to, it's very easy when a procedural generated system makes the levels. It's very easy for the levels to feel generated, I think.
Yeah.
You start to recognize the tiles, and you're like, oh, this is just another order of the tiles with another objective slapped on. Just because of that, I think these custom pieces that come with most levels are very important to make it stand out. Be like, oh yeah, the tower level or the server room or whatever it is that the custom piece was. It makes it more memorable. It centers it around something. Let's set this up. Do we have some foam with us? We have mines.
Yeah,
that is good.
Yeah, mines are a lifesaver. Not for the sleepers, but for us. So I put up mines on all the entry points for this room.
Yes, I'll just foam every door, I guess.
Yeah, foam. I'll put down my sentry. I mean, it's quite an easy alarm, but I mean, you could wipe here if you're not careful.
You certainly can. Just flashbacks to when this level was way, way, way too hard.
Oh, really?
There was a point in time where this was not a very good, suitable tutorial level when it came to balancing.
I mean, that's also interesting, because I mean, you make the first draft, and then we send it to our delivery team, our QA. Probably are the best players at 10 Chambers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Then they test the balance and everything, and so it's a iterative process.
Oh, for sure. I don't think I've ever experienced, just pushing a first iteration of a level and everyone's like, oh yeah, that's good. At first you're not sure about anything. I mean, you have a feeling for what might work, but you never know.
No.
Compared to most other mediums, you're like, you can have a pretty good idea on paper
Yeah.
how it will feel and everything. And you can with games in a sense, but players, they interact with it and they can certainly destroy it or ruin it or make it better. I mean, look at CS surfing, for example. I mean, isn't that that seems like a player accidental.
Yeah, but I mean, and there are for sure so many happy accidents in game design, like speed jumping in Quake and rocket jumping and stuff like that. For a certain part that works, but for other parts like the kiting in GTFO, we needed to scale that back to be able to create good experience for a broader audience.
Yeah, for sure. Like I think when these happy accidents, as you describe them, when they interfere with how players interact with the game, like what the optimal strategy is for certain scenarios, like kiting. If that optimal strategy isn't fun, I think that's a problem from the dev side, because that is telling someone, well, if you want to do better, do this boring thing, and I don't know,
just run around in circles for 30 minutes.
Exactly. I mean, some people like the kiting, some people like the changes. So I mean, it's just a matter of taste, I guess. I think the changes are good. I didn't enjoy the kiting as part of the game experience.
I could probably guess your answer, but what part of this map are you most proud of? Is it the room we're entering right now?
If you look at it from a creations perspective, yes, this is where most time went into when creating this map. But I would say this room. It's like a narrative piece, which is kind of we don't use that very often in GTFO. It's like once in a rundown thing, and this rundown we try to emphasize on that, like on making these like story arc on the first levels in each tier.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is fun. It's always fun making these narrative pieces because you get a prompt, you get something to work with, and it's it's kind of a puzzle to solve too, in how you want to portray it. Yeah, this was the room that we talked about earlier.
The MVP room.
The MVP room. Oh dear. Do you want to grab it? Should I grab it?
Yeah, have the honor.
Ooh, here we go.
I mean, and seeing the reactions from players experiencing this for the first time is so awesome. It still is. I mean,
it is a curveball if you haven't, heard about it, or if you played a lot of GTFO before and you're like, what? You're outside now? Okay.
Yeah, going from this really dark, airy complex to like sun and sand and.
It was really fun making the dimensions.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really a different kind of process making outdoors environments. You know, it's a different rendering pipeline. It's a different way of thinking about level design when it comes to making something modular or something tileable versus making something completely free-handed.
Yeah,
I like how the bots are just sacrificing themselves.
Yeah, they're good. I mean, they will never replace a human, but they're really polite, thanking you for resources and giving you resources. I like it.
I just wished that we implemented, a trolling behavior to these AIs, so they became more realistic. Sometimes they're like, no, I don't want to go. I have to go eat, and then you just AFK for like 20 minutes.
My mom called.
I'm sorry, guys. I have to take this.
Take out the trash.
I am literally out of ammo, so.
I think we'll manage.
I have my trusty hammer. It has never failed to save anyone.
Were you a hammer guy or a mallet or a?
I'm a knife guy.
Oh.
I'm just having this now because it's. I mean, in my opinion, I think the hammer is the most reliable one.
Yeah.
In most situations, but I don't think it's the best in any situation. If that makes sense.
It's a Volvo.
Yeah, it is what you want it to be.
Yeah.
Swiss knife.
Cool. So that was A1.
That was A1 indeed.
Yeah.
Very short. What was our playtime? 24 minutes. But yeah, we talked a little bit.
Yeah, we talked a bit. So let's head on to C1.
Let's do it.